All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Dominance Academy. I'm your host, Mr. Justin. Whew. Okay. Hope you guys have had a good day. I know I have. It's always a great day when you're a man. Had a guy, I think I mentioned this before, had a guy who decided to come back to his training, which is really good. Luke has come back to Dagobah. He's come back to continue his training with Yoda, and he's come through a lot of real, well, actually, just not a lot of them, but big realizations, and that's what a lot of this is about. I mean, at first, that's what a lot of it is about. Your own realizations, and and how powerful those things are. And so he was coming to terms with his relationship to women, and he realized that this relationship was not entirely healthy. It was not entirely healthy. So, and that's good, right? But it's painful. You know what I mean? It's painful when you realize these things. I need to change this. Pardon me. That's better. So, and so what that does is when you come to the terms with these things and you feel that discomfort, you feel that little bit of pain, oftentimes behind pain is truth. I would say almost all the time behind pain is truth. And so he said to me, oh, but that's the wrong guy. Let's go back to him. So we were talking about like nice guy syndrome and his attachment to women. And he says, it's crazy. He says, it's crazy how prevalent the overthinking and overfeeling is, right? Because he's just working on some stuff. And he says, it's crazy how prevalent the overthinking and overfeeling is. I have so much exciting stuff going on with my business and in my life, yet I still find myself overthinking and getting all emotional about women and when and where I will get my next hit. When you talk about it as a drug, it makes so much more sense to me, and I can see what's going on so clearly. It also makes a lot of sense why I found myself in relationship after relationship. Locking a girl into one means I have a consistent, reliable source for my drug. And that is a very, very real realization. Because a lot of times what happens with guys is there's either an underdeveloped or an unhealed wound with the feminine, right? Typically with one's mother. So the female becomes like this archetype that becomes this architecture that gets built up in the mind, and then like subsequent behaviors get formed off of that. Certain habits, beliefs, perceptions, and then your behaviors, which then extends into your choices. And and because it's been going on since childhood, it just seems normal. This is like, oh, this is normal for me. This is what I do. And what he doesn't, what he will come to understand is that these are the sort of things that will prevent him from becoming the guy who's worth following. Because, women, they can pick up on these things. They can feel those wounds because it does come out in your words. It comes out in your behaviors. It comes out in all sorts of stuff. And a lot of guys, they're not self-aware enough to really get a picture of themselves. So they just consider it normal because they've been behaving this way since a very young age. They have these formulated perceptions and beliefs and habits all coming through from a young age all the way into adulthood. So without ever questioning it along the way, they're just like, hey, this is just how I am. And so there's this developing self-awareness, and then now he's coming to understanding who he is now, who he's become over the years, is precisely what's stopping him from becoming the type of man that that women want to follow. And too many, man, this is annoying. I want to get rid of that. Shit, I don't know how to get rid of that fucking Dominance Academy thing in the corner. But anyways, so where is that? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, and so he's coming to some really good realizations, and so you can't really develop, right? You can't be the guy by acquiring these external things, and this is what you're led to believe, especially through social media and other other morons out there, like kind of parading what a man is supposed to be. And it's very interesting, actually. Just a side note here, I met a guy off of Substack, and he has this business, and it's very, very interesting, so intriguing. And this is a guy who was having trouble identifying his masculinity. He had nice guy syndrome. He had a severe mother wound, and he wasn't showing up in his relationships the way he had wanted. And so, and it was just ruining his relationships, and he couldn't figure it out. But then he did some digging, and figured out that he had these problems, and he started just doing more and more homework, digging in deeper, going to therapy. He was meeting with coaches, and it dawned on him that his identity, he's a submissive man. And he wasn't, he still has boundaries. He stands up for himself. He speaks up on his own behalf and that sort of thing. So he's not docile, but he is a submissive when it comes to his relationships. And so I chatted with him a little bit today, and his story and his pathway is incredibly fascinating. And so what he does is he helps guys who are similar to him and become, embrace their submissiveness, which is, I think, really cool, because I know that there's a lot more guys that actually are submissive. They get labeled as simps. They get labeled as nice guys. They get kind of smashed and kicked around. And I think that there's more submissive men in the world than the world cares to acknowledge. And this is, and I think this is very real, but they don't have the outlets or the courage to kind of just come out and be like, hey, yeah, like, I don't want to be in the lead. I have no desire. I want to serve. I want to take care of a home. I want to take care of my woman, and be with a woman who's, charging the fields, charging out into the battlefields and that sort of thing. Yeah. What's up, Dylan? Good to see you, man. I'm glad you appreciated it. Yep. I've got some new, there's links. I've got some new, I've got 3 or 4 of them up now on the website, and they're all more of these advanced BDSM concepts. They're like under $10 for each one. So have at them. Enjoy yourselves, guys. So yeah, this is, so this is about the things that you need, for becoming the man who's worth following. Because I think that this is something that's maybe not in in every man, but I think it's pretty damn common for guys to want a woman who is ready, willing, and enthusiastic about following him. I really do. And but they try hard, they do these things, and they do these. Maybe if I just put a little period there, it'll be smaller. There we go. Good. It's blocking out my handsome face. But anyways, so yeah, you want it, but you're taught the wrong stuff. You're not taught that it has something to do with your character. You're not taught that it has something to do with your presence, right? Like, how do you talk about presence? And people, they'll say that. I'll even say that a lot of this stuff has more to do with your presence than anything else. And it's like, well, what is that? How do you cultivate a presence? And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. And where am I here? Yeah. So let's get into it. We'll get into it. Where's my shit? Okay, here it is. So, becoming the man worth following. So, and the reality is that a lot of guys want to be followed, and mostly it has to do with their ego. But the reality is that very few deserve to be, and that's just the nature of things. That's just the balance of the universe. You're going to have a lot more, cogs, and that's just it, But that doesn't mean you, like, if you realize, like, oh shit, I'm a cog, and I want to be a leader, you can change your state, right? Nothing is permanent. Remember, we were talking about yesterday about neural pathways, neuroplasticity. The mind can be reformulated. I mean, shit, I'm in the business of reformulating minds. Okay. I do it with my woman. I do it with my submissives. I do it with my students. And it takes time. It takes consistency. You have to be diligent, but it absolutely can happen. Okay. And some people, it absolutely can't. So sometimes you put in all the effort in the world and it's like banging your head against a brick wall. And that's kind of like the guy that I want to interview, this coach, because he realized that was him. He was trying and trying and trying to be what he thought was this, a masculine man. And he realized, he's like, that's not me. Like, I don't show up in the world that way. It's so far apart from my nature that it causes even more distress trying to be that. So he just accepted what he is. And that's really the first step of becoming the man worth following, is accepting what you are right now. And that's a difficult thing to do. But that's the most important step. The first step is always the most important step, because that is the step into truth. Because that's your ego is going to kind of step in the way and be like, hey, like a bouncer at a club. Like, hey, you can't be thinking about this stuff. You can't talk to yourself about this stuff. That's uncomfortable. That's not allowed. Go to the back of the line. And you kind of have to push past the bouncer and really get to the acceptance of what is with regard to where you're at. And it can be felt, right? Like there's evidence. There's evidence, because if people don't listen to you, they don't heed your words, if there's no one following you. And I don't mean on social media. I mean like in real life. Then, that could be a strong indication. It's not guaranteed, but it could be a strong indication that you're not the guy to be followed. And and that, and that's something that you have to accept. That's the first thing. And your ego is going to be like, I don't fucking like that. I don't want to hear it. I'm fine. It's not my problem. It's women. It's the modern woman. She's fucked up. And there is some truth to that. Okay. Like, I think especially in America. But, and like my girls for the past, I don't know how many years, they've all been foreign. I've stopped really dealing with American women. But I guess it's easy for me because I'm in New York City. It's like massively international. And they bring their culture with them and all that good stuff. So, so the thing is that you gotta accept that first bit of pain, and having that objective, clear look, right? And resist. And because the next step is protecting against that pain. So you push back the ego that says, no, no, no. Then you feel that pain. And then there's another knee-jerk reaction to stop the pain, right? I'm sorry. Back up. The bouncer wants to block you from the pain. Once you get into the pain, then the next knee-jerk reaction is to feel sorry for yourself. And that's just another defense mechanism. Is to bring in the emotions. Let's lower that frequency. Let's bring him down to the ground so he feels really sorry for himself and he doesn't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. I am so sad. I'm so discontented with myself that I'm just gonna wallow. And that you have to resist that knee-jerk reaction to get deep into your feelings that way. So, and this is something that I had to do with my art students when I was teaching illustration. I've told this story before, but I would create slide presentations because it was all like in PowerPoint, because it was all online. And I'd show master works of art, from various time periods. And these things are gorgeous, right? You see them, you just want to stare, because they're just so beautiful. And their first reactions were always like, wow, that's so cool. That's so beautiful. Like, who did that? Like a lot of like intrigue. And then right behind that was this wave of feeling of saying, I can't do that. That's so good. I might as well put down my tools now. There's no way I could possibly be that good. I suck. Okay. And I had to coach them into resisting that second reaction. It's fine to be in awe, okay? But to resist that second reaction of, I'm not good enough. I'm so terrible. I can't improve. And instead, putting on the engineer's hat. And the engineer's hat doesn't have feelings. It has curiosity. And it looks at things and says, tilts its head like a dog. And looks at it and goes, but how? How does that work? How did that artist do that? What's going on with the composition, the lighting, the colors, the choice of camera angle that's producing this feeling of wow? What did they do? And how did they do it? And why? You get into that kind of thinking, it bypasses that emotional reaction. So that's the same sort of method that you have to approach with yourself. When you have the acceptance and you say, you know what, objectively, I'm not the guy. I want to be the guy, but I'm not the guy. Maybe not in all aspects, but maybe like some aspects or whatever. Everybody's different. And then there's that flooding reaction of like, damn, that makes me so sad. And immediately you have to put a dam in front of that wave and say, okay, but how? How do I go about doing that? Because when your emotions come into play, it overrides your ability to think. It overrides your ability to make clear and clean choices. To really just cleanly ask the question, well, okay, how? How do I go about doing this? And you start looking at things formulaically, okay? and trying to understand things. Because that's another problem with emotions, is that they don't always do the best job in helping us understand things, because it's just there to feel, and that's great for a number of situations. But when it comes to sorting yourself out, this is not the right time. It's not the right place. Okay? There is a time and a place for all the emotions, okay? But when it comes to handling and managing yourself and developing yourself, they really get in the way. They really don't have a good strategic place. I've got one of my funnier mugs here. It says, "Sorry, no hablo fucktardo." I do not speak fucktard. What do we have here? Yeah, the bouncer. Yep. That's what our egos are. It's very much like the bouncer. Yep. How you doing, little one? Good to see you, honey. Okay, so getting back in here. So we talked about posturing, all right? So it's the myth of the alpha, and this is propagated in media, okay? And the thing is like when I was growing up, it was still propagated in the media, but as actual fictional characters, like Rambo, RoboCop, Conan the Barbarian, the Predator, like all these like great characters from the 80s and the early 90s that was all about just this overblown version of masculinity. I'm seeing like John Rambo running through the jungles with an M60 in each hand. Like no one can do that. Like not only are they fucking heavy, I imagine, but the recoil on them has to be phenomenal. So they'd be just like arcing bullets into the air. There's no way he would be able to hold on to them. But he's Rambo. Of course he can fucking hold them steady, right? But these are characters, and I never once took them to be real people. So at that point, it was easy to separate characteristics that I want to embody, that I looked up to, that I thought was really cool and inspiring. But now the character and the person are blurred. Like a perfect example is Andrew Tate. We don't know, like, is that a character he's playing, or is that really how he is? Or is it a blending of both? Nobody really knows. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that know. And actually, I'm friends with a guy who's friends with him, and he says, yeah, actually in person, he's a really like kind and really cool person. So I guess maybe there's your answer. But they're not posed as characters, okay? They're posed, or they're positioned in front of social media as, no, this is a real person. This is their real personality. And therein lies the myth of the alpha. The posturing, the loud voices, the chest beating, the luxury, the sexual bragging. All right? The man worth following doesn't need to advertise. His silence and his presence and his stillness does it for him. Because let's be real, most guys don't want a harem. Most guys can't handle a harem, let alone desiring it, okay? So there's very few guys who can desire and manage a harem of women, despite like everyone, so many guys that being like, oh yeah, I want like all the bitches. I need a roster. It's like, you can't fucking handle a roster. You can't even handle one girl who looks up to you, worships you, and you manage her and you manage that. You don't even have that. So get out of here with that stupid desire of wanting this roster of girls. You can't handle it. Most guys can't. And if you got them in like a private one-on-one conversation, talking very real with each other over a beer or something like that, they would, most, if not all, would admit that they're not really looking for a harem. They're not looking for a roster. They want one girl to call their own, that's devoted, that loves him, and is willing to serve him. Okay. And for that, for one person, you do not need to advertise. Advertisement is about casting a wide net. And so if you're not interested in having tons of women, why are you casting a wide net? It's like you're learning this. It's like, oh, well, that's just what alphas do. They have to show their lifestyle and all this stuff. No, it's about your presence. Because think about it. If I told you, I was like, all right, listen, I'm going to show you exactly what to do, how to say, how to be. I'll hook you up with everything that you need to do. But here's the hitch. It's only going to affect one woman. And she's going to love you. And she's going to focus on you. She's going to serve you. She's going to honor you and be loyal to you. But you only get one woman. I think most guys would go for that. Versus saying like, okay, you're going to have like 9. They'd be like, well, if I have this just one girl who's interacting with me on this level, why would I need everything else? I just want to have this one girl, start a family or do whatever, travel. I don't know. So like all this posturing and showing off and trying to present as some like ultra mega special dude, it's all nonsense, because those markers, those things, they don't affect her. Women don't feel safer because you look luxurious. They don't feel safer because you are very loud and opinionated. They don't feel safer because you boast about how many women you fucked. They don't get aroused. They don't get wet by showing them a stack of money. They don't masturbate to the thoughts of your car or your apartment or your wristwatch or your abs. Well, maybe your abs if they're like really into that, but they're not really getting off on this stuff because it doesn't stimulate them. So all the things that guys are doing that they think will bring about the inspiration to be really into him are the things that won't do that. It's really strange. What really does that, what really inspires the woman's heart to open, to trust, to become loyal, to pledge herself to you, to love you, to respect you, to look up to you, to have deep trust and reverence, has everything to do with your presence. And your presence is determined by your relationship to yourself. Think about how terrible your presence would be if you had crippling self-doubt, or how being an alcoholic would affect your presence. If you were abused in your earlier years, but you never dealt with it, and it caused all kinds of like other things, other behaviors to occur in your life, how do you think that would affect your presence? If you had like a lot of self-judgment, tons of self-criticism, you always felt not good enough, how do you think that would affect your presence? It would cast an aura. That's the thing. Like the kids are all about the aura. Next you can hear aura maxing. Okay. It's going to affect your aura. And that aura is what engages women. It's not the things you have or what you present. Surely that gains their attention and goes, oh, look at that hot guy. Look at that rich guy. Look at that, famous guy, right? It gains attention for sure, but it doesn't pull her into your gravitational field. And she could be right next to you, spending time with you, sucking your dick, going on trips, accepting your presents, like gifts, right? Accepting your gifts, and still not be pulled into your gravitational field. Being in a gravitational field has nothing to do with physical proximity. Nothing to do with physical proximity. Isn't that right, kitten? So it has everything to do, well, the beginnings of it, with the relationship you have with yourself. That's how this works. That's what creates presence. Let's back this up just a little bit. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what creates your presence. Yeah, and you can't fake it either. There's nothing you can do that can manufacture a gravitational field. It has to do with self-love, self-respect, and self-honesty. Pushing past that bouncer and being real with yourself so that you can get past the blockages, right? Get past the bouncer, kind of dodge that wave of self-pity so you can get to the fucking root of shit. It's so funny though, isn't that weird? How your own mind will fight against its own healing. It'll fight against its own management. It's so strange, right? You could be doing the best things for it, and your mind's like, nope, I don't want to do it. It's so stubborn sometimes, like a stubborn child. So what this does is, over time, you start like wondering, like after you kind of like get through some stuff, you're like, well, what do I stand for? Right? Because if you're not motivated by validation anymore, if you're not motivated by the acceptance and approval of women, if you're not motivated by impressing other people, then comes in the question of like, well, what am I motivated by? And this is when you start redefining your internal government. When you start redefining and really fleshing it out, like with pen and paper, what your codes, principles, and rules are. At the Academy, we do have a system for figuring this out. It's not prescriptive, so I don't tell you what your CPRs should be, but I give you the tools to figure them out. And once that's kind of figured out, it sort of develops like a coat of arms from, way back in Europe and England, when they had a coat of arms, and every little symbol that was on that meant something, and it kind of told a story. And that's so at a distance, if another family saw the coat of arms, say like on a flag or something like that was way off in the distance, they go, oh, okay, I know who that is. I know what they're about. I know their whole story. I know what they stand for. And back then, like your family name, your name was everything, absolutely everything. People lived and died for their name. And once you establish that internal government, it reestablishes your name, because it once again says, I'm important. I matter. You're no longer adrift as a passenger in your own life. And that begins the changing of your presence, because that will then make someone who's very irresponsible into being more responsible, someone who's mindless into someone who's more mindful, someone who's not so reliable into someone who is reliable, who knows direction and can give direction. And not only that, they have restraint. That's a big difference between a child and an adult, is restraint. This is a huge thing. The notion, I mentioned it the other night about delayed gratification. These are some of the things that separate a youth from an adult. The youth always wants it now. I need it now. Impulse, impulse, impulse. And the younger you go, the shorter the impulse. Right? Babies, they cry like instantly. Like the second they feel hungry. The very second they feel hungry, instant crying. And then you kind of, as you get older, you learn to kind of, you can control that and say, all right, I'm stuck in traffic, but I'll eat, in 40 minutes when I get home. And you learn to restrain yourself from having that reaction of wanting to cry because you're hungry. And the same sort of thing can be developed more and more in other aspects of your life. It can be developed in how you think, how you feel about yourself, your emotional reactions to certain things. But restraint is a huge thing, okay? And especially as it relates to women, because this is again something they will pick up on as it relates to your aura, your gravitational field, right? You can't see it, but you can feel gravity. And so having restraint is one of the biggest things that girls can pick up on. The guy who's so hungry, is so ready to fuck. And instantly she's like, damn it. He's cute, he's charming, but he's already put me in a position of power. I'm in control. I didn't want to be in control. Why am I in control? He's cute and handsome and charming, and he's got a good job. And why does he have to be so sexually impulsive? I can smell it all over him. It's coming off in his breath. Why? I didn't want to be in control. Now I have to decide of how to manage his hunger. I wanted to be the one who gets managed. I wanted my hunger to be inspired. I wanted my hunger to be managed. I don't want to be the manager. I'm a manager for 12 hours a day, every day. I don't want to be the manager of my relationship. But he gives me no choice because he has no restraint. He just wants to get on these buns. Right? And you've got some things going for you, she finds you attractive, maybe she likes your lifestyle or whatever. She's like, yeah, all right, fine, and kind of ignore that stuff and sweep it under the rug, her gut reaction to you, coming from her core, her feminine core, okay, who yearns to desire, not to be desired, okay? The ego of the woman desires to be desired. Their core desires to desire. And so she kind of has to ignore that. Shh, feminine core, quiet. He's cute. We're going to fuck him. Maybe he's got a big dick. And she'll spend time fucking that guy. All right. But it's gnawing. Okay. That feminine core will gnaw at her from the inside. And she won't be able to withstand it for a long time. I mean, some are longer than others, but it's not indefinite. Eventually, the feminine core will be so malnourished that it can't be ignored. And it's all because he could not be the guy to control himself. He was driven by pussy. And it's never, ever, ever just about pussy. Okay, it's often attributed to Oscar Wilde, but he did not say this. It was a playwright. I forget his name. And he's the one that said, everything is about sex except sex. Sex is about power. And so sex is not about sex. It's almost never about sex. unless I think you've dealt with your shit, which most people haven't. So because of the nature of sex and how it can tap into all sorts of like deep emotions and attachments and beliefs and perceptions and all sorts of stuff, hangups, issues, trauma, all that stuff gets kind of laced in. And you can say, it's just fucking whatever. Okay. But you can't consciously control your subconscious. And that's where all those things are tied in. So, just like the nice guy on the surface, he's like, well, I want to show her what a good guy I am, right? I'm a great guy. I'm got a good life going on. I'm not an asshole. In fact, I pride myself on not being an asshole. I'm thoughtful. I'm kind, right? But is that really what's going on? What's really going on? Even when he like gets the girl and he's having sex with her and they're going on dates, or maybe they have a full-on relationship, he's not really doing any of that for her. None of it. All of it, all of the actions, all of the thoughts is motivated by making sure he is emotionally safe. He's manipulating and using her so that he can feel safe. That's the fucked up thing. So there's always these underlying motivating factors beyond what you think is just happening on the surface. Oh, he's just trying to get her attention by being nice. No, he has deep codependency. He doesn't like himself, and he deeply needs her validation like a drug. He's more or less a heroin addict. And the thing is that players can be just the same, except they're just a lot cooler looking. They don't look like a simp, but they've got the same drug addiction. They just have a different and perhaps better method of going about it. Using a little bit of dark triad psychology, even though they probably don't consciously apply it, they just end up using some of those things. By not talking to her, by being distant because they have perhaps an avoidant attachment. And so that causes the girl to be like, oh my gosh, this guy, like he's so cool and like he's got like tattoos and he doesn't talk much and he like never calls me, but oh my God, the sex is crazy. And he can't tell if he likes me or not, or even respects me, but my gosh, I can't stop thinking about him. Like the things that he's inadvertently doing is part of like dark triad psychology, and it gets them roped in. But what he's doing is he's become very good at procuring the very same drugs that the nice guy is after. It just doesn't look the same. And people can say, oh, you're so cool. You got all these girls who want to fuck you. Those guys typically, and I've talked to enough guys to follow the roots come down into the same source. It's just the same source of pain. It's just one, they split and they bifurcate, and one goes towards seeking it through niceness and making sure that they are acceptable, and then the other distances themselves from getting close or anything like that, and that brings them the drug that they're after. It creates this like what do they call that, reverse psychology type effect. But when you're leading properly, when you have influence, they're not looking for bravado. They're definitely not looking for the guy who needs them, right? They're looking for presence. They're looking for discipline. They're looking for restraint. They're looking for direction. They're looking for certainty. Not entertainment, not flashiness, not bravado. They're looking for certainty. And that's something that comes about after dealing with all of your shit. Because it's very difficult to be certain of things in the world, okay? You can work it out through maybe getting really good at a certain something, but it doesn't have the same impact as meeting someone and you get this sensation that they have certainty in themselves, there's this relaxed groundedness. Like you get this feeling like, yeah, this person's feet are like really planted on the earth. They're not like just hovering there. They're really planted. And this is the presence. This is the gravitational pull. Is that certainty, right? Because we talked about like what goes on in the typical woman's mind. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of that shit. Okay. And they don't want something similar. They want the opposite. They don't want chaos. They want order. They don't want uncertainty. They want certainty. So that's why if they're having a bad day, they not only want to hear, maybe everything's going to be okay. They want to feel that everything's going to be okay from your certainty behind your words. Like you really believe that everything's going to be okay. You're not just saying that so she'll stop crying. Right? So you can get back to peace and you don't have to deal with her emotions. Right? You don't want to be that avoidant. Okay. Shout out to Steve. I remember years ago, he said, men don't shy away from the bullets of life. They run towards them. They don't duck. They fucking run towards the bullets. Okay. So you don't need to advertise. They don't need entertainment. Women, they want certainty. So, so I mentioned about containment, okay? Sovereignty and self-containment. And this is also some of the things that develop as a result of working on your presence, developing that internal government, right? That certainty within yourself, getting that basic blueprint of who you are. And this is when the sovereignty begins. And I mentioned that last night as well. Damn, I think a fucking mosquito bit my head. The joys of being bald. So the thing about containment is, and I've talked about this a lot, right, is the ability to hold tension without collapse, fracturing, or explosion. You don't want to crack under pressure. You don't want to collapse under pressure, and you don't want to explode under pressure. You can hold that tension. And not from like a bracing yourself position. Okay? No. Because that's a point of resistance, right? You're exerting so that you can withstand tension. Not at all. You want to be able to remain calm. And I would say that a good way to learn this in a very like callous kind of way, but it really teaches you and gets in deep if you do it long enough, is to do anything physical that is dangerous. So, going out for a run isn't going to do this, okay? But say like rock climbing, that's going to do this. Combat sports is going to do this. Motorcycle racing is going to do this. Boxing is going to do this. There's got to be a number of different things, okay, where if you fuck up, you could get injured. And you'll notice that the more you do it, you realize that your tension means a fuck ton. It becomes this major ingredient, like where your tension is. And if Dylan is here, he knows absolutely about this. Okay, he's a BJJ grappler for quite some time, and I know from my own history of combat arts, your tension is one of your biggest enemies, and it can be capitalized upon by another person if they're better and wiser and more clever than you. They can feel your tension and use it against you. So you really have to get get used to tension. So if you're not doing any of that stuff, you kind of have to become aware of life experiences where tension arises and teach yourself to be calm within these with breathing techniques, paying attention to your body of if you're tensing something, maybe you're like pulling up your shoulders or making fists or holding your breath or breathing with just your chest instead of your stomach. All sorts of stuff. Okay, gritting your teeth, like squeezing your jaw muscles. I knew a guy who did that. Like he would, we'd having a difficult conversation, and you'd see him like just clenching and like squeezing over and over his jaw, and his jaw muscles were flexing, right? And he ended up with like really terrible teeth because your teeth aren't meant for that kind of pressure. They're not meant to crush and grind against each other. But yeah, being in situations or putting yourself in situations that make you face tension so that you can teach yourself to relax. That's the whole thing, man. That's where you want to get. This is what I call the mountain mind. You want to be like a mountain always. Always. You are the mountain. You are the mountain god. Nothing moves you. Nothing perturbs you. Nothing gets under your skin. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you don't recognize rule breaking. It doesn't mean you don't recognize disrespect. It doesn't mean you don't recognize foolishness. But you don't get emotionally moved. You just deal with it properly. You deal with it objectively. And this is what allows you to lead properly. You don't want to be the man who flinches. You want to be unflinching in the chaos of life, unflinching in the chaos of women. And yeah, they might test you. I don't blame them. A client tonight, he was asking me, he said, so coach, there's so many different views on shit testing. Okay. And I really don't care about shit testing. Some guys, they have very serious views, right? If you talk to like the PUA guys, they're all like, well, there's all these like strategies on how to deal with shit tests, right? And I've taught the strategies as well, because if you don't know anything, it's good to at least understand certain skills, okay? Like if you don't have like the mountain mind established, it's good to have some little tricks up your sleeve to deal with shit tests. And that's fine, okay? But you don't want to just rely on those indefinitely, right? You want to develop as a man where you don't need tactics to deal with them. So, and then there's guys that I know who they're not pickup artists, and they're like, you know what? If a woman's testing you at all, it's a sign of disrespect, and you should just dismiss her immediately. And you can do that as well, okay? But the way I look at it is I see them as just silly little kids. It's a silly little girl who has uncertainty flowing through her veins, who has self-doubt and fear and tension just flowing all throughout her, in like varying degrees throughout the day. And there's this guy or guys who are presenting themselves, and you'll have no idea how much women get hit up on social media. Dating apps, forget about it. Dating apps, it's floods of guys. Hey, what's up? Hi, what's up, beautiful? Fire emoji, heart eye emoji. It's like inundated. Like to say it's inundated is an understatement. So they're flooded with this stuff. And it's not just like, hey, I want a guy like once a week, right? They're flooded. How do you know who's real? How do you know which is the man? And after a while, talking to some, you know that probably a good portion of them aren't. But how do you figure it out? How do you know truth from untruth? Especially since there's guys who are trying to present masculinity, blustering about, looking cool, dressing up their Instagram to make them appear more interesting and, more worldly and more this and more that. And she looks at their socials and like, wow, like, is that really who he is? Or like, what is this? I don't know. I have to figure it out for myself. I have to touch. I got to push against the wall to see if it's actually made of granite and not just paper mache painted to look like granite. And I do this, and he got offended by a stranger who's just this little girl. He gets offended. How dare you say something about my height? Mustache. How dare you? Right? How dare you make a joke about me? Right? And to get like all like in a huff, with your sphincter gets all tight, you puff your chest and like, that's disrespectful. It's this little girl, this little squirrel running around, just trying to see like what's a real solid tree to climb up, And you get offended by a little remark by this little girl who's just looking for some kind of safety. And you try to present, and it's nothing that's real. All you want to do is just come. You're a coomer, as the kids say. That's all you want to do. And we both know that it has nothing really to do with that. You've got some other fucking issues that you haven't dealt with. And I know that because you get offended by a little girl. You're not a mountain. You're a boy. You're a boy presenting as a grown man, hoping that some dumb chick will get fooled enough so that you can satiate your unattended to issues with your mother. Good job. You're doing a great job at being a man. Give him a medal. So no, they don't want to be duped. They don't want to be hurt. They don't want to be fucking destroyed. They don't want to put their trust into something that can barely stand. That if she just says this little thing, you crack or crumble or explode. What's going to happen if there's a real calamity versus just this girl making some kind of comment? How dare you? So really, when you master your impulse, you give everyone around you permission to trust. It doesn't mean that they will or they have to. There's no guarantee, and you shouldn't be looking for people to trust you. But when you master your impulses, then you're giving people at least permission to trust you. You're basically saying without saying, hey, it's okay. You can trust me, without having to advertise that, right? It just kind of comes off of you when you are not governed by your impulses. And so to lead others, you must be mastered by something higher, be it your principles, your mission, God, your codes. It's got to be something higher than you that you answer to, that you look at, understand, and say, this is what guides me, not my emotions, not my animalistic impulses, not my knee-jerk reactions, but my higher understanding, my higher self, my best self. So there's this quote that I heard. Well, I'm sorry, I read, that goes, people follow men who see further than comfort allows. And when I read that, it made a lot of sense to me. It resonated with me. Because most people, right? Girls especially, guys who aren't dialed in, guys who do not have a mountain mind, they are not the mountain. They are governed by comfort. So the comfort, or the like where the wall of discomfort is, be it emotional or physical, psychological, that's their limiter. And men who are the mountain, that are grounded, okay, men with a capital M, they can see further than comfort allows, because they have no problem with discomfort. They realize that that's part of the tapestry. Whereas a lot of guys, many women, they kind of walk around it. They try to meander and find ways around the landmines, okay? When really, the man, he looks at it, goes, well, the fastest point from, the fastest pathway between 2 points is a straight line. Sure, there might be traps in there, landmines, swamps, mosquitoes, alligators, but that's the fastest route. I'm not going to go 10 miles to the east just to fucking avoid alligators. No, I'm going to trudge right through that. Right straight the fuck through. I might get injured. Okay. But that's just how it is. I'm not stopped by discomfort. I'm not stopped by fear. I mean, who knows? Maybe along your way, you'll find like the, large fallen tree, and you just kind of roll it over, and then you can walk right across the fucking swamp and never have to step foot in it. And you can continue on your way without having to go 20 miles east. So, and the thing that allows him to do that is like understanding his own purpose. And that's what allows you to pierce through the noise of the shit that's between the A and the B. That's what allows you to do that, is having the understanding, and from the understanding comes conviction. Once again, this is part of the characteristics that creates the gravitational pull that the woman says, I feel comfortable following that guy. I feel good following him. I feel safe following him. Because one of the runoff effects of conviction is safety. Because that says, I have full trust in myself. I have full trust in what I believe in. I love myself. And that's what pushes behind your purpose, whatever your goal is, okay? I don't really like to use the word purpose, because I think males only have one purpose, and it's not worldly. Your only purpose is to just become a man. Go from male to man. That's it. The one and only meaningful purpose. Now there's, I guess, micro purposes that show up in life. I think I have a purpose here to help other people, right, through internal development. That's my purpose. But is that my grand life scheme? No, it's just to continue being a man. And so having clarity of direction is like a calling. The clarity of direction, that it kind of like catches the woman's attention. She's like, what was that? He sounds convincing. And that's the problem also, because it can easily be manufactured. Again, which is why girls will test. They'll test from time to time, even after, say, like a relationship has started. They will do little things. And sometimes I think a lot of times they're not even aware of it because it happens subconsciously, because their feminine core can operate through their subconscious. So they won't even consciously be testing for these things, because the feminine core is kind of pulling levers and making decisions here. So it's not usually where the girl's like, oh, I'm going to test this guy because I doubt his direction. It's not like that. It's more of something deeper that comes from inside. That's where the motivation is for most of a girl's testing. So she may not even be aware that she's doing it, but she will feel the effects of how you deal with that test, whether you deal with it poorly or effectively. Because that's all her subconscious wants, is safety. She wants to feel calm. She wants to feel whole. So another thing to understand about leadership is that it's not about who follows you. It's not about being obeyed. It's more so about carrying more weight than anyone else is willing to. And this can show up in a number of different ways. This can show up in the physical world. It can show up in the psychological world, like between two people. It can show up in the emotional world between two people. And this is why I harp so much on men developing their stillness and their ability to handle tension, because guys don't understand. You want to be able to shoulder or contain your woman's emotions, because if you want her freedom, you want her submission, you want her trust, you want her vulnerability, you want her will, you want her heart, you want her entire being to just pour into you, let herself be completely dragged into your gravitational field like a black hole. I know you guys want that. Like, if you've ever tasted that, you're gonna be like, yeah, like I like that. I want that. Even if you haven't tasted it, just the concept of it. There's consequences to it. Okay. And consequences aren't always negative. It just means an outcome. That's all consequence means. So there's consequences or outcomes that are attached to that desire, or if it happens, that instance, that formula. So if she's coming in that way, there's going to be things that come with it that you might not have considered, because for her to give all of herself to you means all of her. It means her fear. It means her self-loathing. It means her habit of distrusting her own judgment. It has to do with her anxiety. It has to do with her pain. And not just the pain she had today, but the pain she had many years ago. Like, you're saying, whatever, bring it on. And there's a lot more room. Don't worry, you're not going to take up too much space. This container is massive. It's iron. Nothing you put in here is going to damage it. And that's something that a lot of guys don't consider. They just think, oh my gosh, it'd be so great for her to just be in a state of like just happily wanting to serve me, happily wanting me to or to give herself physically to me, right? Free use whenever. 3 o'clock in the morning, deep throat, fine. Okay. Coffee service on her knees. Any kind of sexual thing. You want to bring in other women? Fine. Anything. Okay. But you don't think about the other stuff that comes with that openness. Like, because open means fucking open, and not just to the stuff that you are focused on, and not just to the stuff that you find pleasant or arousing or fun. It means everything. Open means open. Vulnerable means vulnerable. Because to be not vulnerable is to protect things that you don't want other people to see, that you don't want other people to accept or notice or acknowledge. So when a woman's vulnerable, she's showing you everything. She's giving you all of her and the stuff that she's afraid that you're not going to like. But if you take it all in and you're unfazed, and not only unfazed, but you can shape it. You can simmer it down. You can, or just plainly accept it. This then cultivates and brings her to states of transformation. Now you become something entirely fucking different. You're not just a guy. You're this other entity. Like, you're not a god, but you're not just a dude either. You're this something in between. Something truly influential. And part of that has to do with carrying weight that most guys are not willing to. And it's not to gain her approval. It's because you can. And because it's no thing. Women's emotions don't faze me at all. They can bring whatever the fuck they want. Even if they're fucking angry with me specifically. It's all the same to me. Whether she's angry at her job or angry at me, it's the same fucking thing. It's dealt with in the same way. The direction in which it's pointed is irrelevant. It's just emotion. Does the mountain care if it's a westerly wind or an easterly wind? Does the mountain care if it's hail or if it's just a strong rainstorm? No, it's still the same. It still deals with everything the same fucking way. Grounded. It's not like, oh, fuck. It's hailing, so I'm going to be different now. I got to brace myself because I don't like hail. No. It's the same. Consistency. Right? Being an opposite reflection of her variability, of her mutability. Right? Mutable means changeable. Okay? Like you hear that like in astrology, right? There's fixed signs, and there's mutable signs. So like I'm a Leo, that's a fixed sign. Something like a Sagittarius is a mutable sign. Okay? They have the ability to change, flex. I'm going to pause for a second. You see some comments in here. Oh, Uncle Guns, yes, thank you for posting these things. The links, appreciate you, man. Hotep Bond, I like the name. It says, my submissive has a father that's dying from a terminal illness. Any advice on how I should go on about it? That sucks, man. I recently also dealt with something like that. Not my submissive, but somebody that's close to me, and they lost their mother. That's terrible. And so I would say that, first of all, that when it comes to very serious things, the dynamic can take a back seat. And we're dealing with life and death here. So humanity comes first, like above dynamics. And you connect and address with them on that human level. And that's probably the most primary foundational thing. As for like what to say, or do, there's really nothing you can say or do. Especially for like a direct family member, like a mother or a father. It's just going to be tough. So what I would say is one of the best things for you to do is not get wrapped up in the emotions, because your sub is going to be going through hell, like emotional hell. And you want to be someplace that's comfortable because of your steadiness, not because you're trying to like do stuff and tell her stuff and, blow smoke up her ass and all that stuff. Like, like people do that when things are bad and they say empty, fragrant smoke, like, if there's anything I can do for you, dude, my fucking father's dying. There's nothing you can do. Don't blow smoke up my ass with bullshit, right? So don't like do that dumb stuff. Okay? You just be there. Let your presence that is not pulled into the chaos of the unsettled emotions that can provide a place of safety, a place of emotional calm. All right. And you don't have to say much because there's really nothing to say. There's no words that can really calm the spirit of someone whose parents are dying, especially if they've got a good relationship with them, So I would just say, come out of the dynamic, address them from a humanity perspective, and remain still. Provide that stillness that will allow her to come to you and feel emotionally safe, right? And not just give her like empty platitudes, right? I can't stand it when people do that shit. Yeah, you're welcome. So, back in here, let's look at what I got here. All right, direction. Let's see. Not obeyed. Soldier, craftsman. Sacrifices magnetism. They follow you because you bleed for what you believe in. Yeah, that's a thing too. Is there's something to be said about sacrifice. It used to be something that was pretty regular amongst men that we would sacrifice. And it was, socially for honorable reasons. A guy would become a soldier, or he would work a lot for his family, and they would sacrifice these sort of things. And times are changing, but I think that a lot of guys have lost that sense of sacrifice that you're willing to. I don't think guys are willing to anymore. I think that part of them, they're kind of disenchanted. I think that's a very good word to describe modern males, is to describe them as disenchanted. And they're like, why the fuck would I sacrifice anything for these women? Right? And that's fine. Okay, I hear your point. But that doesn't mean that you can't still have the capacity to sacrifice. Like every samurai is ready and willing to perform seppuku when necessary. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter how much time has gone by. It could be on their last days and something happens and they have to perform seppuku. They're going to. So it's kind of like it's having that in the chamber, like at all times, willing to sacrifice, willing to walk into tension. And I think this is lost on guys, being willing to do a lot of stuff, willing to be that container, willing to shoulder more weight than anyone else is willing to. willing to perform seppuku, willing to sacrifice something important, themselves, their time, their energy. Who knows? It depends on the context. But I think guys are just like, no, because they're like, well, what's in it for me? And that's like how a teenager thinks. It's how a teenager thinks. What's in it for me? You're not seeing far enough. You're not looking far enough at all. Because when you're of the mind, right, because there's more parts to it than just the sacrifice, right? There's all the things we talked about, right? The coat of arms, the pushing past the bouncer, right? It all starts back there with pushing past the bouncer and evading that wave of self-pity, and then developing the internal government and learning how to stand with intention and building your container, fortifying your container so that it's solid and reliable. Like all of that stuff, plus the willingness, at least, to sacrifice. Okay. This is part of the gravity. This is part of the thing that draws people to you. Right? I mean, look at heroes. You look at like stories of heroes. They're willing to sacrifice. They run into battle. They do the dangerous thing to help somebody. Okay. Now, of course, these are exaggerated for stories and all that stuff, but it's the spirit behind it that's important. And they're not doing it with the sense of what's in it for me. Because once you develop all those aspects that I was talking about, people just give it to you. They give you the thing that the person who's expecting and saying, what's in it for me? And looking at like his options, or he has his desires of what he wants from whatever his action might be. The man that I'm talking about with a capital M, he gets those things just without having to ask for it or even think about the desire for it. So, it's like with the women, it's like when you stop wanting them, when you stop trying to trying to get them, when you stop needing them from an emotional and a sexual position, like that emotional / sexual position, right? We talked about the attachments, neediness, and all that stuff. They actually want to give it to you more because that stuff, when you haven't dealt with it, it's prickly to them. It's a turnoff. It causes, it's like a repellent. It repels them. But when it's gone and it's smooth, they just want to dump. They're like, use me. Please. I have been waiting so long to be free, to just have the trust and the openness to say, you may use me. It'll make me feel fantastic, right? Because that guy who she does this to, he's also got all the other traits where all of her openness, all of her emotions, all of her psychology, it comes along with her body, right? Remember, I talk about how it's all integrated, right? They've got their mind, body, emotions, spirit. It's all woven together. There's no compartmentalization the way it can be with guys. So when she says, you may take me, you may use me, please take me and please use me, that means everything, including the stuff that doesn't look so good, remember? With the fullness of her presence, the fullness of her body, the fullness of her mind, the fullness of her heart, the fullness of her spirit, also comes her darkness. Not just her light. Her darkness comes with it. And you embrace all of that. You can cultivate that. And there's more woman there than most guys have ever experienced. And and it's kind of like hard to describe. It's hard to describe because I don't think many guys have really experienced what it's like for a woman to give of herself so completely to him. There's always like one foot out the door. And you know what's funny? I know of a coach, I'm not going to name names, but he literally said, when you're with a girl, the both of you should have one foot outside the door at all times. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of non-family building bullshit is this? Why would I want my wife to have one foot out the door? Why would I want myself to have one foot out the door? That lacks conviction. That lacks leadership. That lacks example. That lacks grounding and being solid. That's not having both feet planted on the earth. Right? That lends to doubt. Not being convinced by your own choices. Leaving yourself an out. That's what that is. You're leaving yourself an out, just in case. It's like, how do you expect to really fully go through life with an attitude of just in case for so many things? I'm not going to contain just in case I don't like what I've contained. Well, you can. And if you don't like it, after it's all poured in, you can say, you know what? This really isn't fucking working. But the funny thing is that, you know, when you're that guy such that she is trusting and willing to do this with, I can almost guarantee that you're not going to want to. You're not going to have that desire. You're going to be like, this is profound. It's profound when you can see someone's ego and their pride dripping away. Like a woman's ego and pride dripping away. Let's get specific. So, this devotion that I'm talking about, okay, it comes from feeling your steadiness. That's related to the tension thing and being able to sit in it and be, you know, unfettered. And masculine presence is not domination. Like I said, it's so dense. Like, you know, what's the thing that's, was it like stars? You know, when they're first being born, they're really, really fucking dense. And that's what starts their gravitational field. And that's what masculine presence is developing a masculine presence is about density. And that's what starts creating the gravitational field. It's not about domination. Domination is something a little bit more tactical, okay? It's how you organize things. That's what domination is. But that's not your presence, okay? Your masculine presence is more like gravity. So what a lot of guys will do is they want this sort of thing. So they accidentally or think that they're doing the right thing by creating fear-based obedience versus inspired trust. And the fear-based obedience, it looks cool on the surface, okay, but it's not really it, because it's terrible. Like, nobody wants somebody who's just going through the motions. All right. So there's a difference between having an employee who does everything that they're supposed to. They perform flawlessly. All right. But they come in, they clock in, they do everything exactly as you expect them to do. They clock out and they go home. And it literally could just be about anyone, really. Like they're just kind of fulfilling a role. And some guys would say, well, I don't give a shit what happens, okay, how you feel about it. I care whether the job gets done. And some employers are like that. They don't care how you feel. They don't care at all. They say, I don't give a fuck what's going on. Just if the job gets done well, that's all I care about. And you'll get paid, and then we move on to the next day. Now, there's a big difference between that and the person who does the same exact thing, but they want to be there. Like they really want to be there. They're putting themselves into their work. This is different. It changes the environment. I don't know if you've ever worked with somebody who really wanted to be at the job versus people who did not want to be at the job. Their performance could be literally the very same thing, but the attitude that's brought to it completely changes it. And so I don't want just obedience. I want inspired trust. I want inspired choice. Not just doing as I say because I said to do it. I could care less. You might as well not even be here. I don't want it. I want inspired choice. That's the only thing that's good. So, kind of like with girls that are interested, we like Lucario, he always talks about like high, medium, and low interest girls. Okay. And I know that he would agree, when I say it, if it's not a hell yes, it might as well be a no. And it's the same thing when doing collaborations or working out some business with somebody. I only want hell yes. I don't want lukewarm. I'll think about it. I don't want, I'm not sure. No, I don't want this at all. I just want hell yes. And if that means less frequency, okay, that's fine. Like if that means that I only get to, deeply interact with a woman once a year, but it's a hell fucking yes versus like 50, maybe. Fine. I'll leave the maybes alone. They can just stay where I found them. And I'll take that one hell yes, because that's going to be much more satisfying because it allows me to express myself more. I can get in there. I can move. I can stretch, right? I can like extend myself within them. Okay. With someone who's like, nah, I don't know, maybe I'm like kind of boxed in. I can't really express myself. Okay. Which means I cannot really lead them. I cannot really influence them. And this is what I like. I like affecting people, right? It's my living. That's what I do for a living is affect people. So I enjoy this. And so if you're, with somebody who is of medium or low interest, you're just kind of, going through a race with, 1 foot chopped off. And so when it comes to obedience, okay, I don't want obedience because obedience just says they're doing what they're told. Okay. I don't want cooperation. I want surrender. And surrender requires a very high amount of trust because someone can be obedient and not trust you. They're just doing what they're told. I don't want obedience. I want fucking surrender. It's giving up. Saying, you win. I'm yours. Take the land. Take the livestock. Take the grain. Take all the men. Take all the women. Take all the children. Take everything. It's yours. That's the hell yes. If it's not that, why the fuck bother? But if they're going to do that, you now have to tend to the land, the livestock, the men, the women, the children, the grain, the crops. All of it. It's now your responsibility. And not just the crops that are beautiful and ripe, also the ones that are rotting, not growing well, the areas of soil that are contaminated and need to be dealt with. Like that's all your responsibility. So just know that. But in order for that to happen, you must inspire trust. So when she kneels, and I don't mean the obedience of kneeling, which is just doing, right? The surrender of kneeling is not because they're weak, right? It's because you've made it safe for them to surrender. You've made it safe physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. You've made it safe for them to let go, to give up. That's what surrender means. When it's like, okay, I surrender, right? I give up. There's no more resistance. Zero. I am yours. So this is the surrendering, and you're creating platforms, systems, containers for this to happen. You're facilitating it. All right. So, the same energy that, steadies a room, like amidst like calamity or tension, is the same energy that deepens the woman's trust and deepens her breath. It loosens her tension. Okay. So this all starts with you. This all starts with you. Okay. So, just understand that power, right? Because that's really what we're cultivating here. That power without self-governance is tyranny. And self-governance without power is disempowerment dressed as virtue. What was it? Like Jordan Peterson, he was talking about something similar to that. Like a man who's not a threat is, he's not nice. He's nice, like a nice guy. What did he say? Nice guys they're not nice. They're just non-threatening. They're not dangerous, right? You want to be dangerous, but virtuous. You're contained by virtue. You're contained by code. You're contained by principle. Again, to be dangerous also can be about impulsivity. Like an untrained dog or a wolf or a tiger. It's like what makes them scary is that they're led by their instincts and impulses. If they just suddenly get scared or spooked by something, they're going to possibly maim or kill. Okay? You don't want to be like that. You want to be dangerous, but also contained by codes and principles and rules. And feeling this, okay? Feeling this this duality happening inside you. This is something that's comforting and arousing to girls at the same time. And that kind of like goes back to the thing that I was mentioning, maybe some days ago or whatever, about the splits that happen inside men and women. All right. There's the inside every woman, there's the girl who wants to be objectified and used. And then there's also the little girl who wants to be recognized and protected. And then within men, we have the protector and we have the destroyer. And, the dark and the light, and women's dark and the light. And the idea is that you nurture and you embrace both. You allow yourself to get in touch with your darkness and not shun it, not be embarrassed by it, not feel guilty by it, not feel shame about it. And you accept all of your darkness okay? And not put your light on a pedestal, but just kind of bring everything down to the same level. It just is, okay? And there's that comfort of who I am. Again, that's in full contrast to where women are. But this will allow you to recognize her shadow, recognize and bring out without judgment, as you did not judge yours or shame yours or shun yours. You don't judge, shame, or shun hers. And allows, come on, you little whore. Come on out. It's okay. It's okay. Daddy's got you. All right? That darkness can come out and not feel ashamed. All right? Until you weave shame into it and as play, and then that becomes like extra arousing, but that's like a whole other thing. But that's allowing it to come out so that can be embraced and not feel embarrassed or ashamed that there's an aspect of her that wants to be used, that wants to be treated like an objectified whore or something, just a thing to fuck, right? As well as not to be made fun of or chastised for being a grown woman, yet having this spirit of a little girl inside her who deeply just wants to be held and taken care of, wants to make to be feel emotionally safe and grounded, right? So you do that within yourself, and that gives you the tools to then cultivate it in another. Whether it's, your woman or a friend or a relative, it doesn't matter, or a client. This is what you see clearly, and then it allows you to see clearly on yourself, and then seeing clearly on others. Know the self, you will know others very easily. Okay. Where are we here? Ooh. So yeah, just like a bunch of like lines that I kind of took from one of the books that I'm working on. One of them here is like, every man must descend before he commends. And, in an older show, hey, that's cool, man. It's all good, Marius. But every man must descend before he commends. And the thing is like, there's this misunderstanding, thank you to social media, right? Thinking that your throne is up in the sky or in some fancy building or a mansion or something like that. It's not. It isn't at all. Your throne is actually in the dark. It's in the darkness. And it's deep underground. This is where your throne is. And to get to it, you must dig. Oh. Darling. If this girl is watching, she used the wrong one. But you're in it now. I said the medium one, not the large one. Anyways. Okay. So anyways. So your throne is actually unearthed. It's excavated. It's not built. It's excavated. And so you must descend, right? You must descend into the depths, the darkness of yourself to reach your throne. And that's where your kingdom really lies, okay? It's in the darkness. And, you get comfortable there. You get comfortable, like that's where you're working past that bouncer, okay? You get comfortable there. You're no longer dissuaded or embarrassed or scared or rejecting like anything that's there, okay? And you're like, yeah, this is my home. This is me. This is my kingdom, right? This is my throne. constructed of the bones of my fears. Like that's a fucking throne. Some guys, they might construct theirs out of gold and stuff and this and that. They still have fear. My throne is made of the bones of my fears. And that's when you can command, is when you are seated. That's when you are seated here. Oh. Oh, she's playing. Well, okay. Anyways, stop it. So in order to do that, you need to explore failure. You need to explore rejection. You need to explore humiliation, right? And these are the things that forge credibility. Like when you work through failure. And a lot of people, they try to manufacture credibility. They try to like present, and this is like what marketing is all about and advertising. They're like, oh yeah, this is the image, what we're about. You can trust us. We are credible, right? Look at these testimonials, you know? And it's like some paid actor, some bullshit or whatever. They're not a really good actor, so you can tell that they're acting. And it's just bullshit, right? And that's not how you build credibility as a man, right? As a man, you build your credibility by working through your sense of failures, your self-rejection, humiliations, your fears, your beliefs that are like warped about yourself, like all that stuff. Like that's what changes your credibility. Okay. So that when you are stepping forth to a woman, to work, to other men, to a job, to something you're trying to build, you're no longer like trying to convince it. You just are it. You are credible. There's no sense of like, because we can always tell, like just maybe like the hairs on the back of our neck or something, that when someone's not being authentic, they're not being genuine, you can feel it. There's something in you. You're like, I don't know, like just something about the tone of his words. I don't believe it. There's something. He's a smooth talker, or he's talking too fast, or just the shit that he's saying. There's just something in it that says, no, my instinct is like, no, I don't believe him. I don't trust him, and you go through this stuff and you don't have to manufacture it. You don't have to create the credibility, right? You become credible, right? By not rejecting yourself. And the thing is that when you're working through transformation, right? Because I think that is one of the highest callings of a man, is to transform, right? You can do it with your children, and you can do it with your woman. You can do it with other men. But I think that's one of the highest callings in life, is to transform people. And you can't guide anyone through hell if you've never been burned. Like, I think probably one of the best people to say, like, learn boxing from is someone who's lost a lot of fights. I don't think, like, I would rather learn boxing from someone who's had a lot of duels, has lost a bunch, maybe won some, maybe been knocked out a couple of times or TKO'd, versus someone like Floyd Mayweather. Like, they don't know the full picture. Like, he doesn't understand the full picture of like what it's like to be beaten. Like, beaten physically and beaten emotionally. And And I think there's something to that. There's something to someone who has run the gauntlet and they have persevered. They've become resilient. And they can show you how to be resilient, how to temper yourself. Okay? Like tempering steel. Right? So they'll, you heat it up so that you can form it. And after it's been formed, you quench it either in oil or water. And that tempers the steel and makes it very hard when you quench it very quickly like that. It's very, it's one of the processes for like, sword making or knife making. If you ever watched that show, Forged in Fire, they'll do that. They'll heat up their knife as they're forging it, and then they'll dip it in some oil. And that quickly cools it, and it makes it very hard. So this is what needs to happen with your spirit, right? Which forges your presence, is dealing with the heat of something. So you can't guide someone through their own personal hell or, some kind of hell that's happening in the world if you've never been burned, if you've never felt any heat, and you're out there posturing like you're some kind of man. That's not how it works. And getting beaten in Call of Duty doesn't count. Right? Like you have to actually feel the weight of your own scars, the weight of your own fears, your own self-rejection. Like that's real weight. Okay? And that's what I mean by your throne being down in the darkness. You have to excavate it. You dig and dig and dig. The air is going to be thick down there, moist. Girls love that word, moist. They actually don't, but yeah, the humidity, right? Humid, dark, thick, right? That's where it is. It's not in bright, shining sunlight on a hilltop made out of gold. Like that's not a real throne. Thrones are cultivated. So like I said, knowing your shadow, owning your mistakes without collapsing. And then a man becomes worth following the moment he stops needing to be. And that's a big hurdle in itself, right? But that's connected to all neediness, okay? So the need to be followed is also a need. You need to let go of that as well. You can't desire to be followed. And you definitely can't need to be followed. That's even greater attachment. So they're worth following. It's almost kind of in that like playful thing where, the girl likes the guy who doesn't like her very much. But it's sort of in that same kind of vein. She wants to follow the guy that doesn't want her to follow him. But she's like trotting along like a little puppy, like a happy, lost little puppy. And she's like, I'll go wherever you go. I want to do whatever you're doing, right? We're going to the park? Okay. We're going to the store? Okay. Can I come? And that's just the way it is. But if you're like looking like, where's the puppy? I really want the puppy to follow me. How do I get the puppy to follow me? Right? Part of it is not wanting her to in the first place, or getting to the position of not wanting her to. So you want to slow yourself down, okay? Because part of it has to do with, your presence being still. And stillness is not quick. It doesn't have anxiety. It doesn't have, fast movement. It's not tense, okay? Its vibration is very slow. It's a rumble. It's a hum. And so your rhythm is slower. It's not erratic. And Stop asking to be followed. Stop wanting to be followed. Stop posturing to be followed. Okay. And so instead, start walking in a way that makes direction obvious. And that goes back to like what I was saying before, that like, lots of guys want to be followed, but few deserve to be. And it's just ironic. And I always say this, there's so many ironies in the game, but this is yet another one, that you become worth following when you stop wanting to be. And not in a resignation sort of way. Like, I resign being a man. Like, fuck it, fuck everything. Okay? That's not it. Okay? You still are required to be a man if you were born male. Be a fucking man. Develop it. Dig. Excavate. But renounce the desire for being followed. Okay? Those are the ones who deserve it. The ones who've done the actual work, and they're not looking for a reward, especially from a woman. So what happens is that when your words align with your deeds, when your eyes don't shift and dart about, when your spine stays straight, even when you're wrong, that's when people follow without being told, without being coaxed, without being convinced, without being forced. It just happens. And, and this is just what happens when you become that mountain. Other guys, like something I learned about that concept many years ago. And the teacher, he talked more about the oak tree. He had this visual of this enormous oak tree, and that's good too, right? And the idea behind it that I'm looking at right now is that these are habitats. They're not trying to get squirrels and birds and bugs to live in them. Okay. The mountain's not looking for the coyote to find a den, right? It just does. The animals say, they kind of survey it. There's not really like conscious choices. It's all based on instinct and need. And then that the environment satisfies that need. And it's like, I need shelter. Okay, this works. I need food. This works. I need something that's like really high up off the ground or away from enemies or what have you. And the mountain or the oak tree is not trying to do anything. It's just doing. It just is what it is. It's settled. It's not trying to reject, like mountains like, damn, I wish I was a hill. Damn, I wish I was a lake. It just, no, this is what I am. I'm the mountain. I'm the oak tree. And I was trying to explain this actually to somebody on Instagram. There was this person who was asking about one of my comments, right? And where is this? I want to like read that. And I said, it was like, someone said something about earning. Sorry, it was a part of a video. And this person says, they're talking about domination and, a worthy dom doesn't take control. They earn the submission. And I said, you know what? I prefer inspire rather than earn. And this person was like, yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from, but, can't someone inspire and earn at the same time? Right. And I said, no, I said, like, the sub just gives of herself simply as a reaction. It's nothing that you're trying to get from them. And I said that the problem in adding the term earn in there, especially in a dom sub dynamic, alters things quite a bit. To earn implies seeking. Seeking often implies hunger or a lack of fullness of self. So when the self is full, there is no seeking, there's no need, and there's no hunger. The person just is. It's very much a relaxed, grounded, almost Zen-like state of living. It takes work to get there. In a power dynamic, for a Dom to expend energy and want in the direction of earning submission, it places the Dom below, making efforts to prove themselves, which inadvertently positions the sub as a decision maker whom most don't like to be. So this shift also compromises the sub. In the most ideal sense, the Dom just is. There's groundedness and stillness, no seeking, no hunger, no earning. If over time the sub feels comfortable and compelled to trust the Dom with their will, their soul, and their heart, then so be it. If not, then so be it. That is the mountain. It doesn't say, it's like, oh, great, the foxes have come to live in one of my caves. Great. They've left. Okay. Or they've changed their mind. They don't want to live in this cave. They want to go to some other mountain. Like, it doesn't matter, right? It's because it's non-attachment. It is. Okay. But in order to be, it's not like a pushing away the attachment. It's just not grasping. So, and this was what allows you to just accept. Okay. And to get to that place, that's actually what makes it inviting. So it's not just having non-attachment, it's all the other things as well, which makes you very inviting. That's like this whole show has been about cultivating that gravitational pull, cultivating the gravitational field such that she feels comfortable. And part of that is not grasping, not yearning, and definitely not earning, because that puts her in the position of power. You're trying to get something from her. You like, just like the leader, okay? The leader becomes able to lead when he gives up the desire to lead. And in the same way with submission, he's more likely to gain submission when he no longer wants submission. He'll accept it, he appreciates it, he loves it, but he's not seeking it. It's not a desire. He's let go and just let it be free. And this is the most wonderful part of it, is that when the woman, the sub, they can be men as well, but they come to you, and it's this like gentle, like creeping closer, like this like wild animal that you've come across, and you're just trying to be like, hey, like, it's cool, I'm not going to eat you, it's cool, I'm not going to kill you, here's little treats, right? And you kind of like reach out, and then they're like crawling low, and they like grab it and like pull it back, and like, oh, okay, that's tasty, and it's just you're not like trying to do anything. You're just, the only thing you're trying to do is saying, hey, it's all right over here. It's cool. You can relax. And like, the more they relax, the more things let go, right? And then we get into all their whole shadow thing, and then more and more just pours into you over time, more and more and more, until there's really like nothing left of them as you met them, and so much more now in a completely different kind of presence. They're not who they were. And it's almost like you look and you see like who they were when you met, and you see like who they are, who they present the world, and you're like, damn, that's like not even them. It's just this manufactured avatar kind of, that's built for other people to see and interact with on just very minimal levels. There's a lot happens, but you can't want this. That's like the biggest thing here. You have to let go of your wanting. And I know it's tough. It sounds like weird. It's like counterintuitive. You're like, well, then why the fuck am I even here listening to you, Justin? Like, I'm here because I want to know. And I get that. It's contradictory. Okay. But just trust me. Okay. Trust me on it. Because that's just the nature of things. Okay. That's how this works. All right. I'm going to pull this to a close. I have a little kitten to talk to, and my butt is sore. So thank you for coming to join me on this live. Thank you guys for watching on the replay. I appreciate you as well. And have yourself a good evening.